going to throw your viewers for an outrageous loop, and I'm sure they're going to be irritated, but I've got to tell you, everybody's very upset about the quote-unquote Muslim ban. But if you look at this is a religious war. You know, the radical Islam, what they're doing is they're doing this in the name of a radical part of their religion or how they're interpreting. And Go ahead.
Well, one, I think people are point to the constitutionality of that. I mean, you can't just pick a time in history and say, you know what, now these people are bad, we don't want them. And two, I think it's because some people are saying Muslim ban, and then other people in the administration are saying, no, it's not a Muslim ban. And so there are people at home who feel like, wait a minute, what is it? And if there is any kind of cryptic language, then it feels like it's not truthful. So then people they won't listen because they feel like they're not being told the truth. Does that make sense?
But it does, you know, it does make sense. But I think that, you know, a lot of people are too scared. A lot of people are very scared to say, well, you know, maybe sometimes we need something like this because what we want is extreme vetting. We really want to look at what's going on here. And it's not persecuting all Muslims, but you've got to admit that what's going on with terrorism is religious-based. It is based on religion. So I'm sure I'm going to catch, you know, a lot of stuff on Twitter after saying this, but I had to say it.
Go ahead, Peter.
Can I interrupt? This is not even alternative facts. It's just ignorance of history. To talk about that it's done in the name of a religion or that we're not going to persecute all Muslims is part of the fear that's just driving this country out of a democracy and into some sort of fake and false sense of security. I mean, in 2010, when I wrote a piece about fear in America that was sweeping through town hall meetings, about 78% of Americans trusted the government. That's now down to about 8% in various polls. So when we feed the public with false information and we drive religion as a means of creating more and more fear, we're not only doing a disservice to the religions, but we're doing a great disservice to our country. That is anti-patriotic.
Noel, I want to move on here, but really quickly, Noel, do you see the danger in taking a religion and trying to paint such a broad brush?
I don't like it, but I see where Donald Trump's point is, and you've got to look at the reason he got elected. His claim to fame in the beginning of all this, a lot of people thought Donald Trump was a big joke, but he rose to claim to fame over that wall, and immigration was a huge part, and national security was a huge part. And whether, you know, the left or the right, you know, people in the middle disagree with it, Donald Trump got elected on some of those points regarding national security, Peter.
And I agree. National security has always been one of the most powerful emotions in politics. I mean, John Kennedy got elected on a missile gap to a large extent.
Is there a danger, though, Noel or Peter? Either one of you can weigh in on this. I mean, we can look at American history and know that just because a lot of people think something doesn't make it certainly ethical or moral. Is this a slippery slope, Noel?
You know, it is a slippery slope. And I've got people, you know, look, my background is Middle Eastern, you know, so it's kind of I'm walking a thin line. I've got family, you know, but you've got to look at exactly what he's wanting to do. And I think it's convenient for the left and some people that are disagreeing with him within his own party and the right to take this and saying that he's wanting to, you know, ban all Muslims and it's all, you know, chaos. What he wants to do is have extreme vetting, and I think all he wanted to do is just hold it up for a certain period of time so he could get a good system in play.
Well, maybe they should have reworked it in private, perhaps.
There's one question to be asked. Do we want a democracy or do we not? And if we want a democracy, then we cannot have absolutes. It's like the Secret Service protection of a president. If you ask the Secret Service, they would prefer that the president never leave a building and it would be windowless. But the reality is a president has to move about. And a democracy has to be fluid and has to be open, particularly our democracy that was created by immigrants, many of whom were radicalized, particularly during the French Revolution. So to just suddenly say we're going to have extreme vetting and we're going to leave up the definition of that extreme vetting to bureaucrats in Washington is very, very dangerous to me, particularly as a patriot.
Go ahead, Noah. Our conversation took a turn, but it's a good discussion, so I want to let you say what you want to say.
what would you prefer? Would you prefer just soft vetting, open borders, come one, come all, and we don't want to offend anyone, so just go ahead and come in and fill out a form and answer it. I mean, what do you do?
Well, I don't think.
Why not extreme
Go ahead,
vetting?
Peter. Go ahead, Peter.
Well, first of all, I want definitions of what Noel means by hard vetting, soft vetting. But I want a country that's based not just in theory, but in practice on the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And
Go ahead,
right
Noel.
now,
Everybody does.
the arguments of the Ninth Circuit has decided that that executive order did not fit with the constitutional requirements. There may be adaptations down the road, but for right now, the original intent and action that the president took was viewed as non-adherent to the Constitution.
Noel Nakpour, I'm
But
going
I
to give
think
you
that-
15 seconds. We have to wrap, but this has
Okay.
been an interesting discussion. Go ahead, Noel.
Very much so, but I think Judge Robart, I think he came from a sincere place, and I think that he came from a place, and I understand how he wanted to defend it. But Donald Trump got elected on national security, and this is part of the stuff that he had promised his voters, and now he feels like he's getting shortchanged.
Noel Nakpour, Peter Emerson, I have to leave it there. Noel, listen, I appreciate
Okay.
you coming on and giving us your thoughts. I look
Thanks.
forward to talking with you again. And of course, thank you, Peter.